Good evening, everyone. This is Sean here. Welcome to Prop Zone. And today's topic is none other than the budget 2025, just announced on the 18th October. All right, just a simple clarification that a lot of people don't know may not have a clear understanding of what's budget. In a nutshell, budget is basically the government announce how much they expect to receive in terms of revenue and how much they're going to spend for the coming year. So the budget announced in October 2024 is for 2025, for next year onwards. Okay, to summarize the budget of 2025, just announced in October, basically, some people term it as a Robin Hood. Basically, government try to find more tax revenue from the rich in order to subsidize the lower income group in that say. So some of the things that break down in the budget would be the GDP, which is the gross domestic product, the growth of the economy in the country, basically expected to grow from 4.5% to 5.5%. Of course, breaking down in terms of expenses, there are two, the major part which would be the administrative expenses as well as the development expenses, right? So our administrative expenses stand at 335 billion versus the development expenses of 86 billion. Most of the analysts or most of the rating agencies would expect and hope that in order for a country to prosper forward better, to thrive, a proportion of the expenditure should be more on the development side instead of the administration expenses. Okay, I hope that the allocation, the proportion of it, Malaysia will be able to do something about it in a better way in the near future, right? So when I talk about budget, there's nothing we can escape from the tax policy. So I'll just bring down some of the summarized version of what they talk about in budget in terms of the tax policy. Number one, the scope of the SST will be expanded. That means some of the things that were not included in the SST previously will be included in the budget 2025 onwards. For example, previously food are not under because of the this daily product, it's a necessity. But now the food categories will be further divided into basic as well as non-daily. Some of the example of non-daily, I think the two common food you have heard about from the budget. One would be avocado and the salmon, because our finance minister stated that this is not a necessity, it's not a daily food that we consume, it's considered as an orang atas punya food. So therefore, tax will be applied on these two categories of foods, which is the salmon and avocado. And of course, to encourage a healthier lifestyle and to cut down of sugars in their drinks, the government is going to impose 40 cents per liter in terms of tax on the sugar. So expect either cut down your drinks in terms of carbohydrates or sweet drinks. You expect to pay more on that. Okay? Then, if you are on paying education policy or medical policy either for yourself or your children, one good news is that the exemption of tax has increased from 3,000 to 4,000. Okay? And when it comes to property, this is something you can't miss. Is as a first-time home buyer, all right, there will be certain benefit to you. If you're a first-time home buyer, you're buying something below 500,000, you'll be entitled for a tax benefit of 7,000. But if you're buying something between 500,000 to 700,000, your tax benefit will be capped at 5,000. Okay, again, this is applicable to first-time home buyer, and SMP date has to be 1st January next year, which is 2025, all the way until 31st December 2027, which is the 3 years period. Okay? And also for high income earner, that you will be received dividend income amounted or exceeding 100,000 from next year onwards. The government going to put a 2% tax on that. But what is unclear is that there is no specifications as whether the dividend comes from investing in public listed share or the dividend come from your own company, whereby you stand as a shareholder. All right, so or both. So this one maybe if you are in the tech category, I'm sure you're quite interested to find out the details later. And none other than the wages, which the government has always advocating is to increase the minimum wages, right? So the minimum wages has increased from 1,005 all the way to 1,007. Okay. One of the immediate reaction to this is some of the kindergartens, nursery school, they say that they expect the fees to go up by 25%, 30% because of that, which is common. If you never see there's an increase in minimum wages, you will see something increase. Whether they will materialize in this current economic environment, yet to be seen. All right? So the next one, the major part, I think the main focus of the whole budget, and it's affecting 80% or 85% of the Malaysian, is actually the RON 95, the petrol subsidy rationalization. Basically, the government would take away the petrol subsidy for certain group of people. All right? So the target, the main purpose of doing this is because they want to save 8 billions on the subsidy. Not 8 million, it's 8 billions. And this implementation is supposed to take place from May 2025 onwards. Okay. Now, during the budget speech, our finance minister, also our prime minister, has also bring in a term, a new category, no longer T20. Now he mentioned about T15, the highest income earner or the top 15% wealthiest people in Malaysia, alongside with foreigner, are not expected to enjoy the subsidy on RON 95. So I think some of you may not know, the current petrol price for RON 95 at pump is 215. All right? And if without subsidy, at today market price would be around 2 ringgit 73 cents. So we're talking about 60 cent difference in that. I think first time when people go through the, how should I say, first time when people go through the diesel subsidy removal, there was a bit of havoc, a bit of confusion and so on. But it was okay because most of the time it only affecting small group of people, fleet company, people run a diesel vehicles. But compared to diesel, the RON 95 impacts in terms of people that will be affected is 20 times more or 20 times higher compared to the diesel. That's why the implementation has to be very thoroughly thought after, planned forwards. So the confusion now, the unclear part about this RON 95 subsidy removal remain basically on three things in my perspective. Number one, when they say foreigner and T15 no longer expected to continue enjoy the subsidy, I think foreigner is straightforward, okay? But the T15, the top highest income earner or the top wealthiest, 15% wealthiest people in Malaysia, what's the definition? Is it based on asset base? Is it based on income? If it's based on income, the household income, do you just add husband and wife jointly to become a household income? According to our economics minister, he says this is not solely based on that. So what we are expecting now, maybe the demographic, for example, earning 10,000 or 13,000 in KL and earning 13,000 in Kelantan may paint a different realistic picture of the lifestyle, okay? Because the expenses, living expenses in KL is much higher compared to most of the part, I think, are all part in Kelantan. Therefore, earning 10,000 or 13,000 in Kelantan definitely will have better living lifestyle compared to KL. Okay, so this is one of the things. The second thing is like the number of dependents, how many kids you have. If you're earning 10,000 and you have only 1 kid, compared to people who's earning 10,000 and have 4 kids, and then they have another 2 dependent parents. So all these things will be taken into considerations, and therefore the specification on T15 is still unclear at this part. All right, I mean, it's not as clear-cut as just the combined household income. Number 2, implementation. I think everybody says that the devil's lie in details. When you have a good idea and then your intention is good, you want to implement a policy. How are you going to implement it? It's quite challenging. So now, basically, there are 2 proposals how to implement this RON 95 subsidy removal. Number 1, using IC. That means that if any one of us want to go and pump our car at a petrol station, and we need to present our IC. Maybe there's a machine, a card reader. Once you put in, they're verified. Number 1, you must be a Malaysian, and you must not fall under the T15 category. This is huge. You know why? Number 1, it may take one more step, and this system has to be continuously online 24 hours a day. Otherwise, there will be huge disruption of operation in petrol. Because sometimes when you go to petrol station, you want to pay by card. You see offline. When you credit card offline, you have option to do. You can either choose another payment method, go to the counter, or you can move your car to another pump station, which is maybe is functioning for the card payment. All right, but if the identification card, which is the IC certification system, is not on, basically there's no way for you to pump. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, who to check? Is additional manpower required in the whole process? If yes, where does the cost come to? Does it come from the ministry? Does it come from the petrol station? All right, all these things, it will be a certain factors for the government to implement this. All right. Then number 3, what about those big bosses as a driver? No, the driver is not fall under T15. He uses IC to pump petrol for the car of his big bosses. So how are you going to categorize them? So all these things will be some of the things to be looked after or to think about before the policy to be implemented. The second option is giving cash back to the account directly, whereby all the petrol stations only have one price for RON 95. Those who are eligible will be given back a certain cash amount. Now the drawback of this is that a person that fall into this category that is supposed to enjoy, they don't have the same amount of usage for petrol. Correct or not? A and B, they are both eligible, so it should be eligible, okay? But not both of them using the same amount of petrol. Therefore, giving them the same amount of money may not be the best way or the fairest way to go. Number 3, cost of implementation. If the cost of implementation is to outweigh or close to the saving of the subsidy removal, then the whole purpose of this policy will no longer make sense. So in this case, the 4 unknown items in terms of when, we already know, May 2025, the target date. Who? The T15, the foreigner. Yet, we are waiting for the clear definition of the T15. How? Whether by cashback, whether by IC, or whether by another method to identify who can get the cheaper petrol, yet to be known. I think why it's clear. The government wants to save 8 billion in terms of subsidy, and this is the way to go forward. So with this is a highlight and some of the summary of the full lengthy detailed budget. I'm just going to pick up some that, if you are in investment or you are fit into the certain categories, I think you'll be keen to find out. With this, thank you for your time. I should see you next round. Okay, thank you everyone. Bye bye.